king of wit and side-splitting comedy, Dane Cook, is heading to Minnesota. See him on his fresh new flavor tour when he takes the stage at the State Theater on Saturday, September 28th. Tickets go on sale tomorrow at 10 a.m. For more info, head over to KFAN.com, keyword calendar.
To noon, weekly guest Ben Leber in studio at Nacho Leber via X. You can see him on Twin Cities Live. What's fresh this afternoon, Twin Cities Live?
Well, yesterday we had an awesome. You would have loved yesterday's show. It was all a brunch show. So the whole thing we just highlighted the greatest things about brunch and all the items. We had all these restaurants that were so nice and gracious and gave us food, and we tried a bunch of stuff. Dude, it was the best. One of the best food days that we've had on the show, outside of like our Thanksgiving show. Today's like more of a traditional show. We've got I'm actually highlighting a new restaurant, newish restaurant. It opened maybe 2 months ago. It's called Gia in Minneapolis. I shot a package there, and that'll air today. And we've got some other really fun stuff. So yeah.
That has to be among, you work with a great cohort in Elizabeth, but then also, and good people certainly surrounding it that if I'm watching the show, I'll never know about.
Right.
But that's got to be one of the coolest parts of the bit, whether it's restaurants, it's, you're getting a taste of the lifestyle and various lifestyles throughout the metro. But whether it's brunch, it's a new restaurant spot,
cocktails,
see you guys back here with my wife in a couple of weeks type of thing. That's got to be fantastic.
Yeah, it's super fun. I wish that I was at a point in my life where I had more free time at night and more open weekends. And with 3 kids, and we're in all the activities that everybody else is in, and now even with travel baseball in the present time, like we don't have a lot of free time to go out there and like really take advantage of some of the perks. But definitely when they present themselves, and if we really want to go out and whatever, I could certainly just reach out to the contacts at certain restaurants and just say, hey, we're coming in. I'm not saying that we would get anything for free, but it's just nice that they know that you're there.
Yeah.
Sometimes they're like, oh, here's a little dessert on us, here's a little appetizer on us. It's always kind of nice to kind of like experience it. And then, I still continually on that show, being on there now for almost 2 years, I'm finding stuff out about the metro and the surrounding areas that I had no idea even existed.
Right.
And the thing is, like in the restaurant and bar industry, everything turns over all the time. Right. There's always something new. There's always something like, I got a fresh take on this. And, even if it's a new taco truck, we'll probably highlight it if somebody had a good experience there. So, and who doesn't love tacos on the daily? So, it's been really, really fun, to do all that stuff. And like even, 2 weeks ago, we're doing a big thing with the Twins. And, my kid got to throw out the first pitch.
That's awesome.
And my other kid got to yell out, let's play ball. I mean, it's those things that really impactful for me is like, it's a fun job, but that the fact that my family can experience some of the perks is really cool.
That is sweet. And back to football now. Have you done like a breathe, it's over? Because I was thinking about it where on Monday we're doing the show at TCO, and it was awesome. We got to have both Dallas Turner and JJ McCarthy on the show. Micah Nori kicked things off. Basketball team's on fire. First game on Saturday, all of that. But we had spent 3 months, all the angles, talking about all the QBs.
Yeah.
Think about all the opinions and the cycle in which that goes, where you're high on this guy, low on this guy. That ultimately flips. Mm-hmm. Then it flips back. And the trade in, trade out, stick and pick, whatever. I mean, it was 3 months. And in a lot of ways, it was fun. But then the week leading up to the draft, I'm like, can you guys just pick somebody? Mm-hmm. And then we have something to react to. But then the weekend comes and goes so quickly. And now it's just got to see him on the field. You know what I mean? Where it just, all that buildup and for that moment, and as fun as last weekend was, it was over so quickly.
I know. I do feel a little the same thing. There was like a come down effect from all of it. There's such big hype and build up, and then it's over, and then we chew on it for a little bit, for a day or two, and then it's like, all right, well, they're here. I guess at least in our situation, it all sort of like worked out in a pretty positive way. Now, for the Atlanta Falcons or some of these other teams that, I'm sure their radio shows are just still going bananas over everything.
Oh, yeah.
And now they're going to be exhausting that take about the Penix deal all the way until well into the season, because that's when Kirk will be finally healthy. But I'm glad that we're not in that situation too, because that's going to be equally exhausting.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was such a fun ride. It was it was a super big high that night to be there with all the fans, to celebrate with them. And then really, I did feel like by Sunday even, I'm like, whew, okay.
Yeah.
Now let's sort of regroup here.
Absolutely.
Let's where do we cast the gaze? What do we look forward to now? And now, unfortunately, we're not as a public going to see much from OTAs. They're not open to the public. We'll see a little bit in mini camp. We got to wait all the way to training camp. But what's going to happen is the people that are in the know and they get to watch practice, and the few media members, I have a feeling that like every good throw will be a great throw. And every great throw is going to be otherworldly. I mean, the hype surrounding JJ and what he can do and what they see when he's out there with just shorts and a helmet on, it's going to be laughable. I think that, and maybe he does become a Hall of Famer, but I think it's going to be Hall of Fame takes and everything that they see him until we get to see him in the preseason.
Saw the film. Didn't know he had that arm strength. Okay, well, he threw, albeit he was throwing it straight into a mat at the combine, but he threw it like 61 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I saw it, he was accurate on film. Didn't know he was that accurate.
I know.
Wow. Look at him thread the needle between these two guys that undoubtedly will not be on the team.
Yeah.
I saw it. I think it's next weekend, rookie camp. I am actually excited. See, that's where I am excited to see that, though.
Yeah.
And I'm actually, to be honest, because 9 to noon, you were mentioning the mental gymnastics, and definitely wouldn't want to be in Atlanta's situation. But 9 to noon, we're like Simone Biles when it comes to gymnastics with this football team. We're very good at it, and we're very excited about the team. I'm kind of pumped to come back on Monday morning. Well, how's JJ looking? It was the same thing. You remember when Teddy comes in 2014, and ultimately he doesn't start right away, and all of those things. I'm pretty sure he had to come in. Was it Matt Castle maybe broke his ankle or something like that? But he comes in and he had like that lights out. It was a shootout game with the Falcons at the College Stadium. 7-9 season for Zimmer. But every day from rookie mini camp to the OTAs through training camp, how's Teddy looking? And it's going to be the same thing with Justin Jefferson.
McCarthy.
Or McCarthy, excuse me. Yes,
it will be the same thing. And
too many JJs.
I'm gonna fall right in line with all that excitement.
But it is over the top.
It's gonna be over the top, and it's gonna be. The thing is, like, it's a new era. That's the thing that we were talking about with the lead up to the draft. Was this is going to be a new era? Whoever they select, Drake May, JJ, if they end up getting Penix or whatever, like. It is going to be it has to be a new era of Vikings football. And that's the exciting part about it. So in that light, in that regard, in that respect, why not have fun with it? Like if this is the new era of the Minnesota Vikings, things are going to look and feel different with the quarterback. I mean, we're going to have now a quarterback that is mobile. Oh my God. I mean, since basically what you said about Teddy Bridgewater, this is the only quarterback that we've had in the last 10 years that we had a quarterback that could really trust himself to get out of trouble, to not just slide around and have good pocket movement, all that other stuff, which actually Kirk did a really good job. He could feel the pocket really well. He could slide. He can move around within the pocket. But boy, once he broke that pocket,
instincts.
Unless it was a design bootleg, it was like you're always kind of crossing your fingers.
Well, here's what, and I hate to pile on him. He won games here, loved Kirk, and now he's in Atlanta. Him running was kind of weird.
It was very weird.
It was very awkward, very mechanical. It was the running version of Adrian Peterson catching a football.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think maybe it was the 2019 season. We're at Arrowhead. We ultimately lose to Matt Moore because I forget why Mahomes wasn't in that game. He's got an open, he gets loose, he scrambles, he's going to run for the first down, and he confidently slides 2 yards short of the marker.
Yeah.
One of my favorite Kirk Cousins moments of all time. He would also, he turned that corner on Marcus Golden against the Cardinals one year for that rushing TD. But yeah, it's the instinctual part of it. He had all those rushing touchdowns when he was with Washington. It was kind of, and we talked about it when he first came in. It's like he gets 4 or 5 touchdowns a season. That's what he had averaged the previous 3 in Washington. Well, what does that look like here? This is going to be super cool. And then it never comes to fruition. The QB sneaks are kind of weird.
Oh, yeah,
like the one really the one at Buffalo,
super weird.
I mean, we get out alive. There's a fumble. You want to talk about miracles?
Yeah.
You get that Buffalo win, but the instinctual aspect of knowing when to run, I think, isn't that something that all these kids have now? Though, do you think that's because again, I don't know who mimics who first, and maybe it goes back and forth. Like NFL creates culture change in college football because of who they're drafting at high levels. Kids want to get paid, so they will adopt what their favorite players in the league does, and then kind of vice versa. Like they kind of work maybe hand in hand in some ways. But it feels like all the kids have more mobility for the most part versus a Kirk Cousins drafted in 2012.
Yeah, I would say the NFL is better at culturally trickling down into college and high school. If superstars, take JJ. JJ's wearing those shades, they're basically the football version of pit vipers in which the baseball players are wearing. Yeah. So he wears these shades, and then all of a sudden now college kids are wearing, high school kids are wearing, all the kids down the line. I think culturally the NFL does a better job of going downhill. I think philosophically from an X's and O's standpoint, it goes uphill. I think that what the success that is found in college football, and that really does come from, in the sense of the openness of the passing game, really was Texas high school football. That led into, what they're doing, the drafting or looking at these kids in college. You're like, oh well, as the triple option sort of took care of. Well, we don't have a ton of talent. We don't have a ton of athletic talent. So let's just out trick people and out muscle people with the triple option. Very hard to stop. You don't have to have the greatest athletes run triple option, which is why a lot of the service academies run triple options, because it's an easy offense to run with middling talent. Well, you can kind of do the same thing, but if you've got 3 really fast receivers, well, we're not going to run the ball. Let's just spread everybody out. Let's give them as many open lanes as possible just to make plays. And now the quarterbacks, they're going to look and feel different because they just have to distribute the ball to where basically the coach on the sideline tells them to do it. So it's really like what sort of Art Briles did at Baylor and that whole Texas thing where they were,
is that the air raid vibe to an extent?
The whole air raid.
TCU did a lot of that.
Run and shoot vibe, Texas Tech with Cliff Kingsbury and all that other stuff. That sort of like breeds a different style of high school player, which goes into college. And like, well, if these high school players aren't adept at going under center and turning their back on play action and doing that stuff, maybe we should change our offense to fit what they're best at. And look at these high school teams scoring 70 points a game and producing these quarterbacks that look like Timmy Chang every year. So why don't we go that route? And so I actually think from a talent standpoint, which is why you talk to some of these NFL scouts, it's hard to find offensive linemen that know how to run block.
Really?
I mean, we've gotten to a point now where the biggest thing, if you draft 5 years ago you draft a Pac-12 offensive lineman, you're like, yeah, but can he run block? He might be really good. He might be really highly rated, but he never gets in a 3-point stance, always in a 2-point stance, always kicking back, maybe excellent at mirroring defensive ends and doing a great job at stopping that guy from getting to the quarterback. But as far as running an NFL offense, I mean, he's got to put his hand on the ground. He's got to get a little dirty. They weren't producing those guys in the Pac-12.
That's interesting.
And so it is getting a little bit team and conference specific based on what you want to do at your level in the NFL.
I didn't even think about that with the O-line because, again, like seeing those shifts and those trends, I'm with you there. From an O-line standpoint, isn't run blocking, I don't want to, how easy one thing is over the other, but if I'm an offensive lineman, the ability to constantly be pushing forward and be a tough guy in the trench.
Not anymore.
That seems like that's more conducive. I might be having more fun, to be honest with you, versus dropping anchor and just holding on for dear life. That's really, these kids are growing up and they truly aren't.
No, they're not run blocking.
Because they're not blocking for the 2,000-yard running back anymore.
No, not anymore. And the thing is, like, you talk to any offensive lineman, well, I wouldn't even say the old school guys, but like you talk to any offensive lineman, what's easier, run blocking or pass blocking? What would you rather do? Every single one of them say, I'd love to have my hand on the ground, my weight on my toes, and run block. It's just, it's an easier mental approach because most of the time it's like, okay, I know I'm attacking this guy at this angle. Let's just call it his outside shoulder. And then if I have to be athletic and I have to like combo block up to the linebacker, you can have a better path of success, right? And you can go downhill and that you're using your 300 plus pounds body to go that direction. When you're kick stepping going backwards, yeah, you might have the guy in front of you, but you also might have a guy ear hole you from the inside to push you out of the way. And then they bring a looping guy around the other side. Oh, and by the way, there might be a linebacker that loops the other direction. So you got to have your weight on your heels, you're more balanced. You're trying to use your arms. You got to use your eyes. You got to use your foot quickness. You got to use your athleticism. And by the way, if Dallas Turner's showing speed and then decides to drop anchor and put his long arm out there and puts it right under your chin, then you've got to stop a bull rush as well. So it's a lot more variables and a lot more difficult to pass block.
But these kids don't want to. They don't want to run block. It's the path of least resistance here. Just go be stronger than the other guy and move forward. My goodness. How about this? Speaking of that, though, how drastically, and you know that the birds are already chirping the idea that Justin it's Justin Jefferson. He's a wide receiver.
Jets. He wants to be called.
Jets. There we go. And then we have J.J. McCarthy, who is a rookie quarterback. People already want to get J.J. in there week one, right? And we'll continue to go down that road. Sam Darnold certainly heavily favored to be under center week one. NFL schedule coming out within the next week or so, so we'll know exactly what game that is and start the countdown. How drastically, with either Darnold or Justin Jefferson or J.J.
Yeah, you'll get it.
McCarthy. How drastically does the offense have to change?
I don't think it really has to change that much. I mean, I think that's part of the reason why they thought, I don't want to put words in their mouth, but it seems like they thought that Drake May and McCarthy are going to be really good fits for this offense because it really is going to look, hopefully look as productive as Kirk Cousins had it running. And then you put the plus side on that when you have two athletic quarterbacks that could, take over and not only make the throws that KOC wants them to make, but then also start making some plays, be a little bit more explosive when it comes to that and have some improv skills that I don't think KOC wants a quarterback like Dobbs out there improving the whole time. Like, you got to stay within the system. But if things do break down and there is a free rusher and then we don't pick up a blitz or whatever, like, you want to trust the quarterback can get out, try to find a play down the field. And if not, live to play another down, pick up 4 or 5 yards using your legs and hopefully, maybe a first down. But I just think that those two guys really could just go right into our offense. Nothing has to change philosophically. Our approach doesn't have to change. Jets' position doesn't have to change. Addison's position is still going to be flexible. Like, they can do everything that they normally do, and they just say, like, hey, man, just make the right read and get the ball to these guys.
Is there any aspect of it where you think we could ease the pressure on either one of them with a more effective run game?
Yes, 100%. I mean, especially with J.J. McCarthy. I think that...
Yeah, don't let me mess you up on this, okay? Let me take
I just want to make sure that everybody's understand that I'm saying McCarthy and not Jets. Yeah, especially with him. I mean, because that was sort of the dig of him coming into the NFL was, well, he played in a very basic offense and they ran the ball the whole time and didn't have to make a lot of throws. I mean, I think he only threw the ball, maybe the highest volume was 35 passes in a game. In the NFL, especially the way KOC does it, that you're going to be north of 40. You're going to be 45 pass attempts a game. So, what does 10 plus extra passes give you? Does it give you more interceptions? Does it give you more mistakes? I don't know. We'll find out. But they like to say that he wasn't really running an NFL style of offense. And I actually kind of disagree with that. I think that he runs the perfect pro offense where there is a running element to it. There is more balance to it, but he's still making tough throws. He still has to anticipate. He still has to drive the ball down the field, which he did. So he showed all of that. It just wasn't at the frequency that like maybe a Michael Penix was doing.
That's Ben Leber in studio. When we come back, I do want to get his thoughts on not only Dallas Turner, trading up, getting Dallas Turner, what that looks like as a rookie into this offense, maybe some depth-related bits and other Vikings/NFL-related talkers. Ben Leber, at Nacho Leber in studio. Weekly in studio guest, 9 to noon. But before we go to break, I believe that Maxx Fuller has a cash-winning opportunity for all of you listening.
I do indeed, Nordo. The Fan and BigDeck.com want to give you a shot to put $1,000 in your hand with our national cash contest. Enter the keyword GRAND at KFAN.com now for your shot at winning. That's keyword GRAND. Enter it now at KFAN.com. We've got a JJ to JJ connection in Minnesota. Your Vikings took JJ McCarthy in the NFL draft, and you can rep the new JJ to Justin Jefferson connection with our new shirt. Just head over to KFAN.com/store to snag yours today. That's KFAN.com/store.
Welcome back, 9 to noon. Ben Leber in studio. Let me hit you with this, Ben. At Nacho Leber via Twitter/X. How much of an elite, because you spend so much time prepping for the draft, and naturally, I would assume, covering the Vikings as you do, that you kind of get funneled into it. Like your lenses there's a tinge of purple in those lenses as you're looking at guys, right?
Yeah.
How they would fit with the purple. So Dallas Turner is our guy.
Yep.
The Falcons actually should be spending this week on sports radio talking about how cool it is to have Dallas Turner on their team for a team that could not sack the quarterback last year to save their lives, but they took Michael Penix. So we move up, we get him, and now we have Dallas Turner. What are your thoughts on arm length?
I know where you're going with this, and I think that with a lot of these metrics, it depends on how you use what people think is a physical asset.
Yeah.
So you can go ahead and
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely.
You want to tell the people what you're talking about?
Well, I'm not talking. Hang on.
Okay.
So the asset of arms as it pertains to a pass rusher, we got hand technique.
Yeah.
And I think there was something negative out there actually about Turner's technique. Like he's got to improve.
Sure.
There's some rawness to the athleticism.
Which, first of all, let me say this as you're kind of looking at your screen there. The number one thing that if you are a casual scout getting ready to you're just like Joe Public looking at these players. If you wanted to sound smart, like what all the analysts say, when you talk about a pass rusher, all you've got to say about a college pass rusher is he does these two things really good, but he's kind of raw.
Yeah, he's raw.
He's kind of raw. But
he's got a toolkit.
Doesn't have the greatest tools yet, but we can develop that. That is every single pass rusher coming out of college. You could say the same thing because guess what? They don't have to have a toolkit yet because they're playing. They're not playing NFL tackles or NFL guards.
Correct.
I get it.
It's still just by nature of natural gifts. You can just beat people at a high level in college football. If
you've got tremendous speed and you've got one move, if you've got an inside spin move and you've killed people for 12 to 14 sacks a season by doing that and being disruptive, and people are going to ding you for that, he's just got this, he's got this inside move, which by the way is phenomenal. Probably the best that we maybe generational pass, but he's still very raw. Really raw. That's not going to win at the next level consistently. No S. I know. Like there's not a polished kid coming out of college. Not one.
It always makes me laugh when I think about these, and this is the payoff on this is going to end up being the dumbest thing you'll hear all day, but I'm looking forward to it. The worst player, like the way we talk about pro athletes, and I've said it before, and I'll say it 1,000 more times. The worst player was a freaking king at every other point in his life.
Right.
We're analyzing Blake Brandel, and I forget where Blake Brandel went to college. He was
I feel like Oregon State, but I'm not
perfect.
Sure.
Go Beavers. He was a murderer on the O-line at Oregon State, right? The worst player. Ben Leber, certainly not the worst player in the NFL during your time, but you were it'd be more like a Luke Kuechly than a Ray Lewis or maybe a Brian Urlacher in college. But at K-State, you were the freaking dude.
Yeah.
And so, but then when you get to the NFL, everybody in the NFL was the dude.
Right.
And it's amazing how that spectrum then continues to grow and widen and broaden. But we talk about these guys in college sometimes like that guy shouldn't be allowed to exist. It's amazing how and then we drill them down to things like this. So Dallas Turner, somebody told me that NFL scouts for pass rushers, and you can tell me if this is right or wrong, and I'm using a very specific and very anecdotal example, that they're looking for guys, maybe you're a little bit shorter. Mm-hmm. They would prefer you to be 6'2", 6'3", but have really long arms versus being 6'5", correct, and having shorter arms.
Or even proportional 6'5".
Why is that?
Well, on the height part of it, which I think that's a little bit of like why, even like Jared Allen for everybody locally. Jared Allen, I think, was a little bit of an anomaly given his height because you don't need to match. Like you're looking for 6'6", 6'7" offensive tackles. You're not necessarily looking for 6'6" pass rushers,
right?
Because you want leverage. You want length, but you want leverage. And what Jared was able to do, which I think surprised a lot of people until you actually played against him, was he could actually play with really good leverage. He could drop his hips and he could bend his knees. And then he could use that long torso, those long arms to provide the leverage that you're looking for, along with just, being a menace and, the tenacity and all this other stuff. And he learned to be a really good technician. But you are sort of looking for, and then you're not looking for the Dwight Freeney's either. That's on the shorter side.
Yeah. Aaron Donald on the shorter side.
Even John Randall probably, he was on the
how about that?
On the shorter side, right?
Still remember that story when he had to wear the chain link to get to his weight?
Yeah.
When he was trying to make the team. Unbelievable.
Yeah. Undersized across the board, right? So, but prototypically, you are looking for more that 6'3" pass rusher, 6'2". But in his case, he has unproportionally long arms. So he has the arms of like a 6'6" guy. That's great. Like put that on your list of like potential positive. If you can't use those long arms, then what's the, then it's not an asset at all.
Maybe Brian Asamoah would be an example of somebody.
Perfect.
I mean, he could tie his shoes standing up.
Perfect, right? Like if you can't use those long arms, now you're awkward, and now it actually becomes a detriment because now you can't get those long arms out there quick enough to actually get off a block to create separation, and now it's a wasted asset. In his case, he can actually use those long arms with his frame to use that 4.4 speed that he has to get off the ball.
Yes,
lightning quickness, and he can he can keep his separation. And if he can, and he's shown that he can do that at least at the college level, he can drop his hips and use those long arms just like Jared Allen did to get underneath these big offensive tackles and start to push those guys back. Because believe it or not, being that he's a little slight under 250 pounds, he can still, with his speed and his lower body strength, he can push back a 330-pound offensive tackle, and that's all just leverage.
Creating leverage.
That's his which is why a lot of scouts and coaches love former high-end wrestlers that are on the interior of your defensive line. If you're a wrestler,
he was a wrestler.
No, I'm just saying. Like,
oh, okay. No, I get you. Okay,
yeah, that's another trait that wrestlers, especially the heavyweight guys, offense and defensive line. If you're a high-ender, in high school as a wrestler, that absolutely transitions really well into playing high-level football.
Is there anybody tougher, like growing up in South Dakota, than the kid in the hallway with the cauliflower ear?
No, I didn't mess with.
No,
those
you
guys.
don't. No,
I was my senior year.
You want to be buddies with him?
Yeah, my senior year, I was 215 pounds, 220 pounds. I would not mess with our lightweight wrestler. No, not a chance. I mean, he had cauliflower ear. Even the days where he was starving himself to death and he wasn't drinking any water, he would still kick my ass.
Toughest kids on the planet, wrestlers and farmers.
Yeah, and a lot of them kind of go hand in hand.
Like the kid that looks like he's a little tired.
Yeah,
because he's been working 3 hours before school starts.
Yeah.
Now's not the time to shoulder shove him into the locker, okay?
Yeah, and they're always a little pissy, because they were up at 4:30 doing whatever that chores they'd do before school, and they're all a little salty. So you don't want to mess with those guys. And, when you can watch these guys look like spider monkeys on the pegboard, I mean,
yeah.
You're like, how did you just go up and down that thing and across and then back down? Like what?
Yeah, he's doing his 30th pull-up. I'm still trying to get the sit and reach going.
Like, let me just go over here and grab this basketball and let me just shoot around, okay? Like, just leave me alone. Like, let's be friends. Let's be friends. Like, just know that I'm not going to mess with you. Don't mess with me. And then when we're out and about at a high school party, we're buddies, okay? I'm not messing with you. Like,
I'll bring the case of the Natty Lights.
We're same team, okay?
Well, what I was getting to is, as this was being told to me, arm length. Dallas Turner is 6'3", and he's got 34 3/8 inch arms.
Yeah, length.
And that length. And that just sounds absolutely insane to me, where Leatu Latu, okay, we look at it, he's 6'5", he's 260 pounds. That's probably where we're thinking of like a younger Daniil Hunter, right? Mm-hmm. Except, I mean, I don't know who's ever going to match those arms. Yeah. His second season, he exploded. And PA spent 6 segments talking about his arms and shoulders. 32 5/8 inch arms. We got 2 inches of arm on Dallas Turner to make up for the 2 inches shorter. 40-inch vertical compared to 32 for Latu. 4'4", 40 compared to 4'6", 40. Mm-hmm. Arm length is the ultimate test of an athlete into the NFL. I think it's over.
There is a weight difference, though. There's about 20 plus pounds weight difference.
Okay, well, he's got a lot of tools, though. Okay, and he's raw. And he's raw.
Latu's like 265 and more of a true.
I think he's really coachable. Read my blog.
Yeah.
I'm an insider.
So
I'm just excited for Dallas Turner, though. I know it cost a lot, but I'm now that that's all over, I'm happy he's here.
No, I'm super happy that we got a steal in the first round. I mean, getting him at 17, it doesn't sound like much when he was a top 10 pick, and could have gone number 8 to Atlanta. Would have been a great fit there. I mean, they had defensive holes to fill. So he basically goes from like potentially 8 all the way down to 17, which makes a lot of sense to trade away some picks to move up to get this guy. And, as we talked about on the morning show, I mean, I don't know what the odds are, but he is number 1 as far as rookie defensive player of the year in the NFL right now. So, and he hasn't played a snap because everybody regards his skill set so highly. And you marry that up with what we do on defense here, dude's going to have a lot of opportunities. It may not be on first and second down. It'd be great if he could get out there, but we also, we've got Grenard, we got Van Ginkel. I mean, we've got guys that are probably going to be more of our true 3-down players. But we all, as we talked about and touched on, this is a passing league. So he's still going to get 60% of the snaps, just in sub packages and stuff like that. So dude is going to have a lot of opportunities to create some chaos, and I think he's going to do that. He is going to be an absolute weapon for what we do on defense, and I can't wait because he's ready made right now. Like he's turnkey. Like you can just like plug him in, and he's going to be ready to go in this defense.
I can't wait, man. Thanks for hanging out in the studio with me today. Have fun. Twin Cities Live. That's Ben Leber, weekly guest 9 to noon at Nacho Leber via X. 3 to 4:30 p.m. at Twin Cities Live Channel on the 5. Television. His makeup artist is actually here. That's why we have to break as he prepares himself for today's episode. When we return, it's going to be news with Max, and then Dan Hayes of The Athletic joins us at 11. It's 9 to noon on The Fan.
WWE Monday Night Raw comes crashing into the XL Energy Center on Monday, July 29th. See the best of the best as they battle it out live from St. Paul. Tickets are on sale now, and you can get yours today at KFAN.com. Keyword calendar.
Sorry about that, Max. Welcome back, 9 to noon. Just got off the phone with Lavelle Neal III. He's going to be in studio tomorrow at 11. Looking forward to Lavelle. We just had some scheduling miscommunications, we'll say. But we're back on track with Wobble tomorrow at 11. But right now, it's News to Nord, which is presented by The Casino at Canterbury Park, CanterburyPark.com. Get to the website, by the way. Events happening all summer long. But right up front here this weekend, it's a Derby Day blast. They got activities going all day. You can get general admission tickets, come in and take advantage of all the festivities leading up to the Kentucky Derby. But other than that, of course, you're feeling the felt, right? Poker, blackjack, table games all year round. Live racing itself is going to start up in just a couple of weeks. So the key to all of this is get to CanterburyPark.com. What do you got, Max?
Let's start with the local angle. Poet and musician Gil Scott-Heron once said, "The revolution will not be televised." Well, that's one thing the Revolution and Twins games have in common, because nobody can watch the games right now. But the show must go on, and the Twins kept the show rolling with their 10th straight win, beating the White Sox 10-5 yesterday. Max Kepler and Jose Miranda hit run-scoring singles in the 7th to put the Twins ahead, and they added some insurance at the top of the 9th. The Twins are off today, but back in town tomorrow when they host the Red Sox. So if you want to see the Twins, you got to do it the old-fashioned way and go see them down at Target Field.
Yeah, that again, and the joke, if the tree falls in the forest, no one's there to see it. Did it really happen? In some ways, that's what it felt like for the majority of those, whether it's Comcast, YouTube TV, a lot of cord cutters not in the mix. We're going to jump back into that more with Dan Hayes around the corner. The 10 games in a row is sweet, and it feels weird in a way after 10 consecutive wins. It just tells you how big a hole they dug themselves early on. I think they were 7 or 8 games out at one point. Now they're 2 or 2.5 out of the division, but they're still 4th. I mean, they win 10 straight. And then I do want to get into this with Dan as well. You're playing against the White Sox for 7 of those games. You're playing against the Anaheim Angels. Mike Trout, it sounds like, has to have surgery again. And you know what stinks is it used to be like conventional wisdom. Like if you were just talking about baseball, who's the best player in baseball? What's Mike Trout?
Right.
Well, now Mike Trout's basically been hurt for half a decade. So how does that wiggle its way into the conversation? So bad news for Anaheim. They've been playing awful teams as part of this 10-game win streak. Just how awful are they? I'm going to ask Dan Hayes about that at the top of the hour, but they get the chill day as they come home now, and then it's Boston and it's Seattle here, and Boston having their own struggles, just kind of middling right now. I think they're just above 500. Same for the Seattle Mariners. And so just getting Duran healthy. What's the imaging looking like on Buxton's knee? We're already with Royce Lewis for a stretch now, so it's these certain points come up with the baseball team each and every year. Sadly, it's been health in relation to 2 of their nicest and best players. So we're going to dig into that with Dan, but congrats on a 10-game, and I apologize. Is it first since 2008? Is that accurate?
I think that's something like that. I think it's
2000. Yeah. The most games they've ever won in a season, I believe, was somewhere mid-teens. Let's just call it 15. And so good for them. That part's awesome. But yeah, trying to watch this team. How does that impact attendance, by the way? We'll talk about that with Dan, because you're right, is maybe the first inclination, just go to the games. other people, it can be out of sight, out of mind. I got other hobbies. I got other things I can invest my time into. That would actually maybe lean them to not buying tickets and attending games. So the Twins, well done.
A couple of NBA playoff news nuggets for you. Luka Doncic scored 35 points to lead the Mavericks to an absolute ass-kicking of a victory last night, 123-93 over the LA Clippers. Luka was one of 6 Mavs to score in double digits. The Mavs now lead the series 3-2 and could knock LA out of the playoffs in Game 6 tomorrow night.
Yeah, and I think ultimately they will, and it's weird to watch. The Clippers have always been so close, but ever since they hitched their wagon to Paul George and then Kawhi comes over, Kawhi's hurt. There's always been injury issues. Then this year, they kind of try to run it back with, a 2018 All-Star team with Russ Westbrook and now Harden's there, and none of these guys are what they were. And it's weird to watch when things go wrong for them. It's not just, I blew a tire. It's, the engine starts on fire, and if I don't get out of this thing, I'm going to burn to death. That's how bad it gets when things are bad for the Clippers. So I expect the Mavs to move on. Cool series. Then we get the chance to kind of have a similar conversation to Wolves-Nuggets. Like, how does OKC and all those kids handle some savvy, whether it's Kyrie, and it's usually Luka's one, and then Kyrie, I think he only had 17, 18 points last night. But he'll get you for 35, and he can most days get it anytime he wants still. But when they get balanced scoring, I didn't look at the box score for the most part, but it's like, you get Gafford in the mix. You get some of these other players, similarly to when we talk about the Wolves having success. It's not just Anthony being clutch in all world. It is, wow, Rudy's 7-8 from the line. Wow, 19-7 from Cat. Wow, look what Nickeil Alexander-Walker gave us, 4 triples off the bench. Like, it's those other aspects of it. So how does Chet Holmgren and SGA, what are their conversations? Jalen Williams, who I had never heard of, and now he's just amazing for OKC. That's going to be a pretty cool series.
The Celtics put the Heat out of their misery last night, closing out that series with a 118-84 win over Miami last night. 84, yeah, the 90s called. They want their final score back. Jaylen Brown and Derek White each put up a game-high 25 points, and now the Celtics will await the winner of the Magic Cavaliers series in the next round, which I got to say, I'm just completely jealous of the Boston Celtics that they get such an easy path to at least the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah, it is to the finals. Now, it's dumb within one series to be so high and low on a team. The Knicks blowing the lead the other night, and albeit it was razor thin, it was a handful of points really for the most part in the second half. But for you to allow the Sixers to force OT and then get out alive, like now you get it in Philly tonight,
right?
And maybe you have to force it back to MSG for Game 7. They missed a golden opportunity to wash their hands of this thing, and it could get very ugly. So, but I like the Knicks in the 2 seed. If Tibbs versus the Celtics would be sweet.
I think the Celtics.
But the Celtics
unimpressed.
That's the thing. I actually heard you say that maybe during the morning show today, and I mostly agree. I think I give Tatum a lot more clutch credit, maybe than you do in some respects. But the fact that they didn't absolutely just dismantle the Heat in this series and 4-1. I mean, it like the Wolves last year. You lose in 5 to Denver, but you felt for the most part those were, other than maybe Game 1, that these were hard fought games. They were close. Alan Horton mentioned it. Ant not hitting that 3 to tie it in Game 5, stuff like that. Like, you can point to moments where that scale shifts mightily with a play here or a play there. The fact that it was this close in Celtics Heat is preposterous.
Yeah.
And now the winner of Cavs and Magic. I love Banchero. But, you got Wagner out there,
right.
Half the time, and they've gone through like 8 guards. Like, at one point, Cole Anthony was the truth.
Right.
Now that's not the thing.
That's not a thing anymore. And they're playing the games at freaking 10 a.m. Eastern Conference time.
I think it's actually early bird dinner tonight. You can go, and I heard it on the morning show, you can go to the supper club, and you can get your cinnamon roll, and you can watch tip-off of Cavs and Magic. I think that's great. It's like 5:30. The East Coast is not even close to getting in their cars or in the trains to watch the games. But best of luck to either of those teams, and the Celtics will thoroughly dispatch them. That's news to Nord. If you have any leftover topics, we got a bit of stretch on the back end of the final hour we'll get to, although I do want to get back into this 2004 bit. It's been 20 years,
20
Max,
years
since the Wolves got out of the first round. But I hope it doesn't take 20 years for the Twins to get back on major market, major cable provider television. Dan Hayes of The Athletic, Dan Hayes, MLB via X. He joins me next to talk about not only the baseball team, this TV contract kerfuffle, and more. It's final hour. It's Nordo in for PA. Max with me here 9 to noon on The Fan.